The Galactic Council had seen many worlds in the endless stars. They had ruled the skies for thousands of years. They had faced monsters, machines, and storms that could swallow planets. But never before had a simple blue world made them afraid. The planet was called Earth. For centuries it was ignored. To the Council it looked small, weak, and unimportant. It was a place where a young species called humans lived. Humans had no great fleets, no powerful weapons in space, no empire among the stars. They were trapped on their own world. So the Council never worried about them. They were only background noise in the grand orchestra of the galaxy. But then came the probe. It was built with the best Council technology. It was fast, silent, and strong. It could fly across systems and bring back every secret. No planet had ever resisted it. No species had ever noticed it. The probe always returned with knowledge. And the Council always grew stronger when the probe was sent to Earth. The Council did not expect anything special. It was only another mission, another scan, another planet in their great list. The probe left the Council homeworld and vanished. Into the void, for many months there was no word. Silence filled the waiting halls. But no one cared. It was just Earth, after all. What danger could a small blue planet hold? But one day the silence broke. Alarms rang in the Council chambers. The probe had returned. It was damaged, scratched, and broken. Pieces of its metal. Skin were burned. Its memory banks were shaking with corrupted data. And worst of all, it was screaming. Machines did not scream. Probes did not scream. But this one did. The sound echoed through the chamber. A sound like fear, like pain, like something trying to warn them. The Council listened in shock. The scream was not a code, not a signal, not an error. It was a voice of terror. The leaders of 1,000 species gathered to watch. Some whispered. In disbelief, some laughed nervously. Others stared in silence. Never in history had a probe returned like this. It was a ghost from the void, carrying nightmares inside. The High Speaker of the Council demanded the recordings. The data was played on the great screens. At first the images were broken and unclear. Flashes of light, shadows moving, flames rising in darkness. Then came human eyes, cold, sharp, and filled with something the aliens could not name. The images faded, but the scream remained. It would not stop. Even when the probe's power cells drained, the sound kept repeating. It was as if the machine itself was alive with fear. The Council began to argue. One voice shouted, "Earth is dangerous. We must destroy it before it grows." Another voice said, "No, it is only a mistake." The probe was damaged. Humans cannot be a threat. A third voice whispered, "What if the probe is right? What if this world is not weak?" The chamber filled with chaos. Every leader had a different opinion. Some wanted war, others wanted study. But none could ignore the scream. It was a sound that reached into the bones. It made even the bravest warriors feel cold. It was the kind of sound that no one forgets. One elder among them remembered an old saying, "Machines do not lie." He said, if it came back screaming, then something made it scream. The chamber fell silent for a moment. All eyes turned back to the broken probe. It floated in the air, still humming, still trembling, like a wounded animal begging to be put down. In that silence, the Council began to wonder, what had the humans done? How could a species trapped on one planet cause this? How could a world so small send back such fear? The Council had seen death, war, and horror, but never had they seen courage. Courage so strong it could break their machines. They did not know it yet, but that was the truth waiting for them. Earth was not silent. Earth was not weak, and the humans were watching. The High Speaker closed the session with heavy words. "We thought Earth was small," he said, "but perhaps it is we who are small." The probe gave one last shiver, one last scream, and then it died. The chamber was silent again, but the fear remained. The Galactic Council, now had a new question to answer. Was Earth the greatest danger they had ever faced? Or was it the greatest hope? The Galactic Council chamber was a place of order. It was. Carved into a colossal ring-shaped station that floated above a dying star. For centuries, this was where decisions of peace and war were made. Every voice was heard, every law was forged. Every empire bent its will before the council. It was a place of control, of unity, of reason. But now, that order was broken. The probe's scream still echoed in the minds of all who had heard it. It was not a simple sound. It was a mark, a scar, something that clung to the soul. Even as the machine lay silent and broken, the memory of that scream lived on. The chamber was filled with fear, and fear was a rare thing for the council. Thousands of alien delegates filled the tiered seats. Some were covered in shining scales, others with fur, others with metallic armor grown from their own bodies. They were ancient, proud, and powerful. Yet tonight, many of them trembled. The silence after the probe's death felt heavier than any battlefield. The High Speaker rose, his tall form glowing with the light of a dozen hovering crystals. He raised his hand, demanding calm, but calm would not come. The chamber erupted into voices, some loud, some sharp, some broken with worry. One delegate from the Shura the Empire slammed his clawed fist against the railing. "Destroy the planet," he roared. "No world that makes machines scream should be allowed to exist." His words were met with both cheers and protests. From across the chamber, a representative of the gentle Arali species stood, her body shimmering with soft light. "No," she said firmly. "Earth is young. Earth is fragile. To strike them would be murder." Her voice was soft but unshaking, yet others only laughed. "Fragile," hissed a creature of the war-born Kel. "Then why does their shadow stretch across our stars?" The High Speaker pounded his staff. "Order," he commanded. "Order." The voices quieted, but only slightly. Every delegate leaned forward, eyes burning with fear, anger, or doubt. The question of Earth had cut the chamber open like a wound. A counselor from the Dravo's Dominion brought up the probe's data. The broken recordings flickered. On the screens again, flashes of fire, human faces half hidden, eyes filled with something alien yet familiar. The scream returned, a ghostly echo through the speakers. Some delegates covered their ears, others stared in disbelief. Machines did not scream. They reminded themselves, and yet this one had. The Dravo's counselor spoke, his voice low. "The probe recorded no weapons we could not defeat, no technology beyond primitive levels. And yet, the sound," he paused, as if the words were too heavy to finish. "It is not the tools of humans we must fear, but something deeper." Whispers spread like wildfire through the chamber. Deeper. The word carried through the tiers. What was deeper? What could make a machine know fear? The council had no answer. Another delegate, her body formed of living crystal, spoke with a voice like breaking glass. "We cannot allow this mystery to grow. If humans are dangerous, then they must be contained, destroyed if needed." The Arali protested again. "You speak of genocide. You speak of killing a world without proof. Is this the council's way now?" Arguments grew sharper. The chamber began to splinter. The High Speaker felt the weight of every word. He had seen wars begin with less. He had seen species vanish because of fear. But this felt different. This fear was not born from weapons, but from the unknown. That made it worse. The unknown was always the most dangerous enemy. In the shadows of the chamber, the historians whispered. They recalled forgotten legends of hidden species, young races that rose too fast. Some were crushed before they reached the stars. Others vanished in fire. But Earth was different. Earth had been ignored for too long. No one expected it to matter, and now it returned with a scream that shook the galaxy. An elder from the Varuan collective leaned on his staff, his voice old but steady. "We have fought great beasts. We have burned empires. Yet nothing has made our machines cry out in fear. Nothing. He pointed toward the broken probe. That was no error. That was no accident. Something looked. Back at it, something that made it break. The chamber froze at his words. Looked back, the idea spread quickly. Could humans have seen the probe? Could they have touched it? No primitive species had ever pierced Council stealth. But what if? These humans were not primitive. Not truly. The Council's fear grew. What if Earth was more than it seemed? What if humans were waiting, watching, learning? The High Speaker closed his eyes. He remembered the last image in the probe's data. Human eyes staring through the darkness, not with fear, not with confusion, but with defiance. That look had burned itself into his mind. It was not the look of prey. It was the look of a predator. He opened his eyes and spoke, his voice heavy. We stand at a crossroad. We can strike now and risk making enemies of a world we do not understand. Or we can watch and risk giving them time to grow stronger. The chamber fell silent. Every species, every empire, every ruler waited for the choice. But no choice came. The Council could not agree. The fear was too strong, the mystery too deep. The High Speaker gave the only command possible. Send. Investigators, he said. We must know the truth of Earth. A ripple of voices spread through the chamber, some relieved, some angry. But none could deny the need. The probe had screamed, and now the Council had to know why. As the meeting ended, the broken probe was sealed away. Yet its scream still echoed in every mind, even as the stars outside burned in silence. The leaders of the galaxy could not escape the sound. And deep below, on the small blue planet called Earth, humanity carried on with its life. Unaware that the galaxy was trembling at the thought of them, the Council chamber was silent after the High Speakers. Words. The command was clear, but the weight of it was heavier than any war. Send investigators, he had said. It sounded simple, but in the heart of the galaxy, nothing was simple anymore. Choosing investigators for Earth was not an easy task. No ordinary team could be trusted. This mission was not about conquest, not about study, not about trade. It was about survival. The scream of the probe had shaken the Council, and now they needed answers. Answers that could decide the future of every world under their rule. From across the stars, the finest were called. Warriors, scientists, spies, and seekers of knowledge. Each species offered their best, but not all were chosen. The Council selected only those who had faced the unknown before, only those who had stood at the edge of fear and returned alive. The team came together in secret. 5 figures gathered on a dark platform, their faces hidden beneath the shadows of a dying star. They were the hand of the Council now. Their duty was to look upon Earth, to learn the truth, to survive what? The probe could not. The leader was Commander Vera of the Kell, a warrior born in fire, her body tall and covered in black scales, her eyes sharp as blades. She had fought in battles where suns turned red and empires burned. Yet even she felt unease when she heard the probe scream. Beside her stood Kale of the Aralai. He was no warrior, but a seeker of knowledge, his form glowing with pale light. He believed in peace, but he knew truth could be as sharp as any weapon. The third was Soren of the Dravos, his body thin, his mind sharper than knives. He was a master of machines, able to speak with code and data as if they were living things. It was he who would study Earth's signals, its hidden secrets, its strange strength. The fourth was Relith of the Varuan, an elder spy who had moved in the shadows of 100 worlds. He trusted nothing, feared everything, and lived only because his caution had saved him countless times. The last was not chosen by the Council, but demanded by fate, an outcast named Sarah, a human-looking hybrid from forgotten experiments of old. Her blood carried fragments of Council science. Her face carried echoes of humanity. She had no place among her people, no home among the stars. But perhaps she was the key. Together, they boarded a ship built for silence. It was black as the void, shaped like a blade, invisible to the eyes of most sensors. Its engines whispered instead of roared. Its presence was a shadow on the stars. The mission was clear. Reach Earth, study humans, return with truth. As the ship departed, the Council chamber remained heavy with doubt. Some hoped the investigators would find weakness. Others feared they would find proof of strength. No one spoke of what would happen if the investigators never returned. But the thought burned in every mind. The journey was long, but the silence of space was nothing compared to the silence of fear. The crew kept their distance from each other, each lost in thought. Commander Vera sharpened her weapons, though she did not know if they would work against humans. Kale studied human transmissions, radio waves, messages drifting into the stars for decades. He heard voices singing, shouting, crying, laughing. It was strange. He thought that humans sent their emotions into the void. Not orders, not codes, but pieces of their soul. Soren decoded images. He saw faces, machines, wars, celebrations. Humans lived with chaos, and yet they thrived in it. Relith watched from the shadows. Every time he looked at human records, he felt uneasy. It was as if the humans were looking back, even from recordings centuries old. And Sarah, the outcast, she said nothing. But in her eyes, there was something unspoken, something that made the others look away. At last, the ship reached the solar system. Cold worlds of ice and rock greeted them, gas giants with endless storms, and then, ahead, the small blue world Earth. It hung in the darkness, glowing with oceans and clouds. From a distance, it looked fragile, like a jewel waiting to shatter. But the closer they came, the less fragile it seemed. Cities burned with light against the night. Machines flew through the skies. Ships crossed the oceans. And beneath it all, life pulsed strong. The instruments shook with strange readings. Something on Earth pushed back against their scans, as if the humans were not only being watched, but were watching in return. Kale whispered, "This is impossible. No young species should have this awareness. No primitive world should feel the eyes of the galaxy." Yet Earth did. Commander Vera tightened her grip on her blade. "If they see us, then we must be ready," she said, her voice steady but cold. Ralith's voice cracked with unease. "I told the Council this was foolish. No shadows are safe here." Soren's machines began to spark. His code scrambled by unknown interference. "The planet resists," he said in disbelief. "It does not want to be seen." Only Sarah remained calm, her eyes fixed on the blue world below. "It is not the planet," she said softly. "It is them." The ship entered orbit, cloaked in silence. From above, Earth seemed peaceful. But the crew no longer trusted what they saw. Every shadow hid a secret. Every light carried a warning. The humans below lived their ordinary lives, but something about them felt extraordinary, as if the entire planet was holding its breath, waiting, watching, daring. The investigators sent their first reports back to the Council, but the Council would not hear the full truth yet. The truth was still waiting, waiting in the forests, the cities, the deserts, the oceans, waiting in the hearts of the humans who walked the earth without fear. The Council thought they had sent hunters, but perhaps they had only sent prey. The ship drifted silently above Earth. From orbit, the planet looked calm, almost innocent. Blue oceans shimmered under sunlight. White clouds curled around continents. Green forests stretched far and wide. To the eyes of the investigators, it was a fragile jewel floating in darkness. But they already knew looks could lie. The Council had ordered secrecy. No fleets, no armies. No noise, only shadows. The investigators were to slip down, touch the surface, and vanish before humans could ever know they were there. It sounded simple, but nothing about this world felt simple anymore. Commander Vera stood at the heart of the ship, her scaled hands gripping the console. Her eyes narrowed as she stared at the planet below. "Remember," she said, her voice sharp, "we do not reveal ourselves. We do not make mistakes. We watch, we listen, and then we leave. Her team nodded, but unease rippled between them. Even silence here felt dangerous. Kale of the Arali prepared scanning crystals, his light shimmering nervously. Soren checked the cloaking field again and again, but every reading made him frown. "It works," he said, "but the planet resists." "As if it knows we are here," Relith whispered from the shadows. "Then the planet is not the danger. The humans are." Only Sarah remained calm, her human-like eyes locked on the world. "They will see us," she said softly. "They always do." The ship descended through clouds. Their cloaking shield wrapped them in shadows. No human eyes should have been able to see. Yet as they drifted lower, lights from the ground flickered strangely. Machines on Earth turned their heads toward the sky. Radars bent, signals shifted, as if searching for something hidden. Soren's console sparked. "They are scanning us." He whispered in disbelief. But how? The team landed in a dark forest far from any city. The ship sank into the shadows of tall trees. Silent and unseen, the air outside was heavy with the smell of earth and rain. Strange sounds filled the night. Insects, birds, distant howls. It was alive in ways most alien worlds were not. Vera gave the command. "Move," she said, quietly. The investigators stepped into the forest. Each step was measured, careful, silent, but something about the ground felt wrong. Every twig that snapped sounded too loud. Every breath felt too sharp. Relith whispered, "We are being watched." Kale's crystals glowed faintly. "By who?" Relith shook his head. "Not who, what?" They moved deeper, scanning, collecting, studying. At first everything seemed normal. Animals fled from their presence. Plants bent under their touch. But then Sarah froze. She pointed into the darkness. There were eyes staring back at them. Not animal eyes, not alien eyes, human eyes. Cold, calm, and unafraid. Before Vera could react, movement burst from the shadows. Figures surrounded them, humans with strange weapons. Not advanced plasma rifles, not energy blades. Simple human weapons, steel, powder, fire, but their confidence made them terrifying. They did not hesitate. They did not fear. They advanced. Impossible. Soren hissed. "They should not see us?" The cloaking field flickered, dying in sparks. The humans had broken it. Without even touching their technology, one human raised his weapon. His voice steady. "You should not be here," he said. The words were simple, but the meaning was heavy. They knew. They had been waiting. Veri roared, activating her blade. The air hissed as alien steel met human fire. Bullets tore through trees. Flashes lit the night. The investigators tried to retreat, but the humans moved like hunters. Every path was cut, every escape blocked. The team was strong, trained, armed with technology beyond Earth, but the humans fought with something else. They fought with will. They fought with unity. They fought with fury. Kale tried to speak, to calm them, but his voice was drowned out by the storm of gunfire and shouts. Relith vanished into shadows, only to find more humans waiting there. Everywhere he turned, eyes were watching. Soren's machines screamed in static. "Something is jamming us. They are shutting us down." Sarah stood frozen, staring at the humans. Her human-like face mirrored theirs. One soldier looked at her and hesitated, but only for a moment. The investigators fought their way back toward the ship. Vera cut through trees and fire, her scales burning with sparks. Kale used his crystals to blind attackers. Soren dragged his broken machines. Relith bled from his side. And Sarah, still silent, moved as if torn between two worlds. They reached the ship, slamming the hatch shut as bullets rattled against its hull. Engines roared. The ship tore into the sky. But even as they escaped, the humans did not run. They stood in the clearing below, watching the ship vanish into the stars. Their faces calm, fearless, almost challenging. The investigators sat in silence, their breaths heavy, their bodies burned, their minds shaken, Commander Vera broke the silence. "They should not have seen us," she said, her voice low. "They should not have fought us. They should not have won." Soren shook his head, his hands trembling. "They were not afraid, not even for a moment," Kale whispered. "Do you understand what this means? They are not prey, they are predators." Relith leaned against the wall, bleeding but alive. "I told the council, shadows are not safe here. Nothing is safe here." All eyes turned to Sarah, her gaze still fixed on the blue planet shrinking below. "They were waiting," she said softly. "They knew we would come." The ship sped back toward the void, but none of the investigators felt safe. They had survived the first contact, but it was no victory. It was a warning. The humans had seen them, fought them, and let them go, and that was the most terrifying part. The investigators returned, but they did not return as they had left. Their ship was scarred, their bodies burned, their minds restless. They had survived Earth. Yet survival felt less like victory and more like a warning. No one on the council had ever seen them so shaken. These were warriors, seekers, spies, beings who had walked through fire before. Yet now, their silence spoke louder than any scream. The chamber filled with tension as the reports began. Commander Vera stood tall, but her voice was heavy. "They saw us," she said. "They should not have, but they did." Gasps echoed through the tears. Alien leaders leaned forward, disbelieving. "No world of that level can see through our cloaks," one hissed. "And yet Earth did," Vera replied, her eyes sharp. "Not by chance, not by luck, but by intent." Kale of the Arali stepped forward, holding his glowing crystals. "They resisted every scan," he said. "Every attempt to read them, to measure them, was broken, as if their world itself pushed us back." The chamber shook with murmurs. "How can primitives resist us?" a delegate demanded. Kale only shook his head, his soft light flickering with unease. "I do not know. But I felt something, as if they were watching us the whole time, as if they chose what we could see and what we could not." Soren of the Dravos displayed his broken machines. Screens flickered with static, files corrupted, codes torn apart. "My instruments failed," he admitted. "Not from damage, not from battle, but from interference, human interference." He looked across the chamber, his voice bitter. "They do not only fight with weapons, they fight with chaos. They twist the rules of order itself. And somehow they win." Relith, the spy, rose slowly, his wounds still fresh. He leaned on his staff, his voice cracked but sharp. "They were ready for us," he said. "Do you understand? Council, they were ready, as if they knew we were coming." A chill spread across the chamber. The delegates whispered, some in denial, some in fear. "How could they know?" one demanded. Ralith's eyes burned in the shadows. "Because they are always ready. That is their nature." Then Sarah spoke, her voice calm yet dangerous. Her human-like eyes caught the chamber's light. "They fought us without fear," she said. "They looked into our eyes and did not break. They smiled, even as they bled, even as they stood against weapons they had never seen before. They smiled." The words struck the chamber like fire. Machines did not smile. Soldiers did not smile. But humans did. And in that smile was something that shook the galaxy. The council demanded more. They wanted proof, details, answers. The investigators gave them fragments. History, culture, stories taken from human transmissions. At first it looked harmless. Songs, laughter, tales of heroes and monsters. But the more they studied, the less harmless it became. Humans told stories of themselves as survivors. Wars that should have ended them. Yet they endured. Disasters that should have crushed them. Yet they rose. Every time they fell, they came back stronger. Every wound became a lesson. Every defeat a seed for victory. Other species avoided pain, avoided loss, avoided death. But humans embraced it. They used it. They turned it into power. One delegate played a recording taken from human history. Wars fought with fire, wars fought with iron, wars fought with machines. The images filled the chamber. Battlefields of mud, skies filled with fire, cities turned to ash. The aliens watching felt horror, but then they saw the humans walking through the flames, refusing to stop, refusing to kneel. Madness, one delegate whispered. No, another said softly. Not madness, survival. The Aralai delegate spoke, her voice trembling. Humans create stories not to escape death, but to look it in the face. They laugh at it, they fight it, they defy it. The chamber was silent. It was not strength of machines, not strength of weapons. It was something else, something deeper. The humans had named it courage, but to the council, it felt like something far more dangerous. Soren showed another fragment. Human inventions, human science, human art, simple compared to the galaxy, yet strangely advanced in spirit. They dreamed of stars long before they could reach them. They built weapons not only to defend, but to challenge the universe itself. They imagined futures where they ruled the skies, and every time they dreamed, they took one step closer to making it real. Relith whispered from the shadows. They are not content with their world. They will not remain there forever. The thought spread like poison in the chamber. If humans were already this dangerous without leaving Earth, what would they become when they spread across the stars? The High Speaker closed his eyes. He remembered the probe's scream, the machine's terror. Now he understood. It had not been fear of death. It had been fear of becoming obsolete. The probe had seen humans and realized the truth. Machines break before them, enemies fall before them, even fear itself bends before them. The council erupted again. Some demanded Earth's destruction. Crush them now, before they grow, one shouted. Others begged for caution. Strike them, and we risk creating the very war we fear. Another warned. Voices clashed, orders and counter-orders filled the air. The chamber shook not with unity, but with division. And in that storm, one truth grew clearer than ever. The humans were not just another species. They were something else, something the galaxy had never seen. The council had studied countless civilizations, but never one that smiled at death, never one that grew stronger in pain, never one that turned weakness into strength. The High Speaker raised his staff, silencing the storm. Enough, he commanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. We will not decide today. But know this, he said, humans are not prey. Humans are not weak. They are mystery. And mystery is the greatest weapon of all. His words struck every heart, some with fear, some with awe, but none could deny it. The reports ended, but the unease did not. The council left the chamber. With heavy steps, every delegate carried the same thought in their minds. Humans were not to be ignored. Humans were not to be underestimated. The galaxy had looked upon them and seen something it had never seen before. And far away, on the small blue planet, humans continued their lives, laughing, fighting, dreaming, unaware that the most powerful council in the galaxy was trembling at their name, unaware that they had become the greatest mystery the stars had ever known. The council chamber had heard many things across the ages, declarations of war, cries for peace, victories, defeats, and the endless noise of politics. But never had it heard silence as deep as now. The investigators' reports had ended, and yet no one moved. The words of humans, the images, the smiles of defiance, they still lingered in the air. The High Speaker sat still, his staff glowing faintly. He had listened to every detail, every voice, every whisper of warning, and still he felt there was more, something unseen, something the investigators themselves had not uncovered. Bring everything, he commanded. Every fragment, every sound, every trace of their history. No detail is too small. And so the flood began, the chamber filled with recordings of human transmissions, songs, speeches, fragments of news, endless streams of voices from Earth. The council studied, and what they found was stranger than any weapon. The humans told stories. Stories of gods and demons, heroes and monsters. Stories of battles fought not only on Earth, but in the stars. They dreamed of skies long before they touched them. They imagined powers greater than themselves, and then built them into reality, Kale. Of the Aralai spoke softly. They create myths. But their myths are not just imagination. They are blueprints. He held up glowing crystals filled with human words. In their oldest tales they spoke of flying. And now they fly. They spoke of reaching the heavens. And now they reach toward space. They speak of conquering stars. And I fear one day they will. The delegates shivered, for no other species had shown such a path. Most feared the unknown, avoided the impossible, but humans ran toward it, and in running, they turned fiction into truth. Soren brought forth broken fragments of human science, weapons that grew deadlier with each century. Engines faster, machines smarter, tools sharper. They are not content with what they have, he said, his voice cold. Every generation, they build more, destroy more, survive more. They are never satisfied. They never rest. They never. Stop, Relith. The spy rose from his shadowed corner. He spoke slowly, his words cutting the silence. I searched deeper into their records, into their wars, their disasters, their endless cycles of destruction. And do you know what I found? They win by losing. The chamber stirred at his words. Relith continued, his voice heavy. Every time they are struck down, they rise stronger. Every time they fall, they climb higher. No enemy breaks them. No disaster ends them. They adapt, they evolve, they endure. He paused, his old eyes narrowing. They are the only species I have seen who turn death into a weapon. The council trembled at the thought. A species that grew stronger through pain. A species that embraced loss and made it power. What kind of enemy could ever defeat them? What kind of ally could ever control them? Then Sarah stepped forward. Her voice was calm, but there was fire beneath it. You study them as if. They are animals in a cage, she said. But they are not in a cage. They are already breaking the bars. Her human-like eyes scanned the chamber. They do not just dream of survival. They dream of dominance. And when humans dream, they move mountains to make it real. The chamber darkened as more recordings played. Old human voices spoke of destiny, of fate, of exploration. They sang of stars, of leaving Earth behind. Even before they had machines to fly, they dreamed of stepping into the void. And now those dreams were becoming truth. Kale whispered, almost in awe. It is as if they have always known they belong to the stars. Soren shook his head. No, it is worse. They believe the stars belong to them. The high speaker rose slowly. He walked to the great screen where human faces flickered. He studied their eyes, sharp, bright, unbroken. He remembered the probe's scream. He remembered the investigator's fear. And now he understood why. The scream had not been a warning of what humans were. It was a warning of what they would become. The probe had seen not only the present, but the future. Asterisk. A future where humans did not hide in one world. A future where they spread across the galaxy. A future where they smiled as they conquered. The council erupted again. Voices cried out, destroy them now before they spread. Make alliance. With them, turn their strength into ours. Hide, wait. Let them burn themselves before they reach us. The chamber was chaos, fear and anger crashing like storms. But in the chaos, one truth was clear. There was no path without risk. Destroy Earth. And they might rise even stronger. Leave Earth, and they would grow. Join Earth, and perhaps be consumed. Relith leaned forward, his voice sharp as knives. There is no choice that saves us. The humans are coming, whether we will it or not. We can fight them, but fighting them may be the very thing that makes them unstoppable. Silence followed his words, because deep down, every delegate felt it too. The humans were inevitable. not because of weapons, not because of technology, but because of will. Because they refused to die. The High Speaker struck his staff, his voice heavy. We feared monsters, we feared empires, but never did we fear hope. Humans are not simply another species. They are a storm that grows stronger the more it is resisted. He raised his eyes to the stars displayed above the chamber. And storms cannot be stopped, they can only be survived. The investigators stood in silence. They had seen it firsthand. The humans' eyes in the forest, their fearless stand, their smile in the face of death. Now the council had seen the truth too. The humans were not prey. They were not weak. They were the hidden truth of the galaxy, the truth no one wanted to face, but no one could deny. And far away, on Earth, humans looked up at the stars with dreams in their hearts. They did not know the fear they had sparked. They did not hear the debates of the council, but they dreamed. And in those dreams, the future already belonged to them. The council chamber was drowning in chaos. Voices clashed like storms, anger and fear colliding in every corner. Some demanded war, others begged for peace, and many could only whisper in dread. The reports of humans had torn the galaxy's rulers apart. For the first time in 1,000 years, the council was not united. The High Speaker stood in the center, his staff glowing faintly. He listened to the storm of voices, but his face betrayed nothing. Inside, however, he felt the same unease that shook the chamber, the same question, repeated in his mind again and again. What are humans? Delegates shouted from every tier. Destroy Earth before it spreads. One cried, his scaled fist slamming against the railing. If we strike now, they will never rise. No, another answered, her luminous body trembling. To strike them is to create the war we most fear. They will not forget, they will not forgive. They will fight until the stars burn out. Relief, the old spy, spoke from the shadows. They are already fighting. Even when no war has been declared, every day of their history has been a battle. Every moment of their existence is a war for survival. You cannot destroy them, because they are born from destruction. The words silenced some, but ignited others. Voices rose again. They must be contained, controlled, enslaved before it is too late. You fool! They would tear their chains apart. They would turn against us, and we would be the ones. Enslaved, they are dangerous. They are necessary. They are hope. They are death. The chamber shook with every word. Fear was breaking the council, and unity was collapsing under the weight of humanity. The investigators stood silently, watching the storm they had unleashed. Commander Vera's scales shimmered with unease. Kale's light dimmed. Soren's machines sparked faintly. Ralph's eyes remained sharp, and Sarah, the outcast, stood, calm in the storm, her human-like gaze cutting through the voices. Finally, the High Speaker raised his staff. The chamber dimmed as silence fell. We are faced with 3 choices, he said slowly. War, alliance, or silence. War means risking everything against an enemy who grows stronger through pain. Alliance means binding ourselves to a storm that cannot be contained. Silence means waiting, hoping, and watching as they rise. None of these choices guarantee survival. The silence after his words was heavier than any battle. Every delegate felt it. Every mind raced with visions of the future. Worlds burning, humans rising, stars bending to their will. For the first time, the galaxy feared not because of weapons, but because of will. Then, before the council could vote, alarms echoed through the chamber. Lights flashed red, signals blared. Soren rushed to the consoles, his hands trembling. It is Earth, he whispered. They have sent a signal. The chamber froze. No one spoke, no one breathed. The signal played. It was simple, not complex, not filled with code or threat. It was only a voice, a human voice. Calm and steady, it said, "We know you are watching." The chamber shook with fear. Delegates recoiled, eyes wide. bodies trembling. The voice was not angry, not afraid, not pleading. It was certain, it was defiant, it was human. Relith whispered from the shadows. They see us, they know us. They are no longer waiting. Kale's light flickered. They are not just watching the stars, they are speaking to them. Commander Vera gripped her blade. This is no warning. This is a declaration. The High Speaker felt the chamber tremble around him. Delegates shouted again, louder than ever. Strike now, before it is too late. No, we must kneel. We must join them. It is the only way. Wait, wait. Silence is survival. We cannot move. We must hide until we understand more. The voices blurred into madness. The council was breaking apart. The galaxy itself seemed to shake under the weight of the choice. Sarah stepped forward. Her voice rose above the storm, calm but sharp. You do not understand them, she said. You look at humans and see danger, but danger is not the whole truth. You see chaos, but chaos is their strength. You see war, but war is their nature, and still you misunderstand. She paused, her eyes glowing with something the others could not name. Humans do not want to be prey. They do not want to be predators. They want to be more. They want to claim the stars, not because they are empty, but because they are waiting to be filled. The chamber trembled with her words. Some listened, with awe, some with fear, but all knew she spoke truth. The humans were coming, not as conquerors, not as servants, but as themselves, and nothing would stop them. The High Speaker raised his staff one final time. We stand at the edge of a storm, he said. War may end us. Alliance may consume us. Silence may doom. U.S., but know this. Humanity has already made their decision. They are rising. They are coming. And the galaxy will never be the same. The chamber fell into silence. Every delegate felt the truth in their bones. The probe had screamed because it had seen the future. A future written not in machines, not in weapons, but in will. The will of humanity. And far away on Earth, humans looked to the stars once more. They built machines, they dreamed, they planned. They did not know the council debated their fate. They did not know the galaxy trembled at their name. But they looked upward, their eyes bright, their voices strong, and they whispered to the stars, we are coming.